Hey, hi everyone. This is Sai from LetsUpgrade. So let's talk about how to get your certificate. It's very simple. You will see two links in the description. Number one is the place where you have to go and mark your attendance. Marking your attendance tells us like, okay, you are a legit student who have attended this particular session. Link number two is your assignment. This is where your 90% of the priority is. You have to go and submit the assignment that is given to you in this particular session. Once you're done submitting that assignment, we will be evaluating that. We will send you an email. If you get the passing criteria, then only we will give you the certificate on a particular date that is mentioned again in the description. Please check these three things, and this is the way how you will get a certificate from Let's Upgrade. Number one, mark your attendance. Number two, just go ahead and upload your assignment. Check for the email that you have received it, yes or no. What is the feedback that you have received from your trainer? Number three, check on which date the certificates will be released. Thank you. Bye. All the best. Happy learning.
Hello everyone, I welcome you to this JavaScript tutorial. Now, in this bootcamp, we will cover JavaScript. We'll see in depth what JavaScript is. We'll dig into some overview of JS along with some history. We'll start with the very basics. Then on, we'll start with how we run JS on our web ecosystem, and we'll also see how can we set up and run our first JS program. So, and after doing this, we'll study about variables, and then we'll move to the most advanced topics like functions and topics like I would say understanding variables, what those are, understanding conditional loops, right? So we'll go it this way, right? So this will be an all-round JS tutorial, starting with the very basics and slowly increasing our level to the intermediate and the tough topics, right? So we'll try to understand it in a very simple terms, what it is and how we can get started with JS, right? So what I will do is I'll write the topic for today, which is nothing but JavaScript. Now, so as this name suggests, JavaScript, so many people get confused that it has something to do with, it has something to do with Java, right? Because Java is a programming language which is very common and widely used. So many people think that JavaScript, the name JavaScript, it comes from Java, right? Something to do with Java, right? But this is not the case, right? This is absolutely not the case. JS and Java, which is JavaScript, they have nothing to do with it, right? So there's nothing to do with the name. So it is all invented because at that point of time in the history, if you go back to the historical times, Java was a very widely and a very famous language. So that's why when naming this language, they kept it JavaScript, so that it captures the market and it reaches the audience. Because if you give a name similar to what the name is already in the market, or you give a name to similar to a very popular name, so chances are it might also explode, right? And that's what happened, and JavaScript was exploded, right? If we'll talk about in terms of front end development, more than 90% of the people prefer using JS as its part. So this is what it is, right? Now, so if we talk about a bit of historical sense, although remembering history or memorizing history in JavaScript is not what we want to do, because we only want to focus on the implementation part, not the theoretical part. So but if but it is still good to remember some historical references of the language which we are trying to study. So in short, a very few points that it was founded in 1995. So there was this person called as Brendan Eek, who founded this language. So I'll say founded by Brendan, yeah, not Rich, H, yeah. So it was founded by Brendan H in the in 1995, and When it was found, right, until till today as well, it was only made to run on the browser. Now what does that mean? That means that you can only run JS in your browser. Although now once advancement came, right, with the coming of VS Code, with the coming of Node.js, we were able to provide a runtime environment for JS in VS Code, but initially when it was developed, it was only made to run on the browser, right? So this is what it is, and this is what you should know about. So this is, as part of, as the historical reference is connected concerned, but we do not need to deep dive into historical references, but this is something which you should be aware of because you're doing this language for the first time. Now, so first of all, one more thing is that it is a part of front end development, right? I would say front end development, right? So just to give you a brief inference, what all language consists of front end. So we first of all start with the HTML, right, which kind of provides the skeleton to your web page. Then comes CSS, which provides animations and stylings to your page, and then comes JS, which provides logic functionalities to your code. And lastly, which is optional, we can use a framework or a library, right? One of the most famous library that we use nowadays is nothing but reactjs, right? So this is as far as the front end development is concerned. Now we're not concerned about HTML, right? Let me take this one. Yeah, so we're not concerned about HTML, we're not concerned about CSS, we're only concerned about JS here, not even React, right? So we'll only focus on this JavaScript part, which is the most important and the most crucial part of front end development, right? So we'll look at in this way. Now before starting, first of all, what I would like to do is I would like you guys to install VS Code in your systems. Now since I already have VS Code downloaded, I'll just walk you through how to download VS Code, not VS Code, sorry, Node.js. And also I'm assuming you already have VS Code, right? So in short, we require both things, VS Code and Node. Assuming you already have VS Code, if not, you can just download it. It is as simple as a basic setup download. Now if you have not downloaded Node.js, I'll walk you through how to download it. Okay, so what you do is you just type on Node.js download and you click on this first link. It says nodejs.org, and if you click on this link, you land up onto this page. Now based on the operating system that you're using, since I'm using Windows, but if you're someone who's using a Mac or a Linux system, you can choose any option as per your requirement from the drop down and just click it. Now once you click it, right, copy on click, you can click on this copy to clipboard. Now once you do it, either you can run it in your command prompt. So if you write command prompt, I'll just open it here, I'll just drag it. Yeah, in this command prompt you can just paste it, right, and you can press enter. So once you press enter, okay, oh, let me just not using Docker, maybe, okay, with npm, sure. So we'll get the latest version, which is 25, and okay, so just crop this part. Okay, I'll take the Node.js part again. Let's take the Node.js part again. So you click on Node.js download and you enter Node.js download, and this is the first thing that comes up, which is nothing but nodejs.org. So once you click on this link, you'll be landed onto this page, right? And if you come here, you say it gets a pre-built Node.js for Windows, right? And depending upon which machine you're using, be it Windows, Mac, Linux, and which architecture it is, you can just select your conferences and click on download, right? So once you click download, you have just install it and it will be installed, right? Till this part it is very easy. Now here's the interesting part. Once you have already installed it, you have to set up the environment variables. Now how do you set up the environment variables? For that, you go on to start menu, right? Click on the start menu and type in environment variables, right? So just type in environment variables. So if you click on environment variables, this pop-up dialog box will come up. Now it says environment variables, right? So click on this environment variables and you have this path here. You double click on this path and you will land up onto this interface. Now you click on new, and if you click on new, you add the path of the location where your nodejs has been installed. So just copy that URL, right? And that URL needs to be pasted here. So in this case, since I've already downloaded, the nodejs, so in my case, if you can see, this is the path, where it is, yeah, this one, in C program files nodejs. So if I head over to C, if I head over to program files, which is nothing but this, and here I have my nodejs. See, here it is, right? And similarly in your case as well, mostly it will be the same directory, but if it is something else, you just navigate to the directory and copy this URL, right? Once you you come here and then you copy this URL. Now once you copy this URL, you can paste this URL in here and press OK, and click on apply and then press OK, and that is it. You will be good to go, right? And this, mind you, is a very important and a crucial step if you want to run JS in your VS Code, because initially JS was not made to run on VS Code, it was simply made to run on your browsers, but running JS on browsers was totally very complicated. So that's why we now run it on VS Code using this nodejs, which provides a runtime environment for JavaScript, right? Okay, so now I'll close this and I'll come to VS Code. Okay, so now what I'll do, I'll cross all these pre-written files. Maybe I'll delete this because I don't want to rename the same file again. Okay, now once I delete this, I'll make a new folder. I'll call this JavaScript again. Okay, I'll wait for the folder to create, and once I have it, I'll create 3 files, right? One for HTML, one for CSS, and one for JS, right? So for creating HTML file, I think you must be aware we have used the extension .html. For creating CSS, we use the extension .css, and for JS, we use the extension .js, right? And I'll quickly show you one demo. I'll just write the boilerplate, and I'll just show you the demo here. So let's suppose I make in a heading, I say that it is a heading which, let's suppose, simply says click me, and what I'll do, I'll provide it an ID which says maybe title, right? Something of that sort. Now how do we add JS to our program? So similarly, right, just like we add CSS, there are 3 different ways to add CSS. One is the inline, one is internal, and one is external. Similarly, we have 3 ways to add JS as well, which is inline, internal, and external. But we only prefer, like in majority of the cases, we only prefer using external JS, because of its easiness and less complexity in nature. But I'll show you an example for one internal JS as well. So what I'll do, for adding internal JS, you use the script tag, and in the script tag you write your JS code. So for example, I'll just write a piece of code. If you don't understand this, totally fine. I'll just do something like document.getElement by ID, and my ID is title, right? And to this title, if I click on it, let's suppose I want to have an on click, and if I click on this, this will take in a function. Now that function could do some operations, right? So I'll add a function, and this function maybe will alert, maybe I can say something like JavaScript is running. Don't worry if you don't understand this code, we'll deep dive into what this all means in later parts of the bootcamp. But it simply means that you're trying to catch an element by its ID. The ID is title, and once you click on this function will run. It will just say alert, right? It will pop up from the browser, it will alert that JS is running, so that we get a confirmation that JS is running absolutely fine. So now what I'll do, I'll click on open with live server, and if I click on click me, see it says JavaScript is running. It means that the alert box is working properly fine, which means that your JavaScript is running absolutely fine, right? So this is how we run the internal styling. But as I told you, we do not use internal styling much. We tend to use external stylings a lot. So what I'll do, I'll comment out this since we don't use it, and I will make some more elements. Maybe I'll make a button, we know which this button could as simple say click. If you want, you can have you can give it an ID as well, right? Maybe you can say something like say hi, right? Now remember, this button which has an ID say hi, it says click, but I'll not write the JS code inside the file, because if I write it inside the file, it means that I'm using internal JS. So what I'll do, I'll go over to script.js, and herein I'll write the code, right? So I can say function, I can say whatever the function name was, I'll go to index.html, say hi, and this function will do some operations. In this case, as we have seen, it can just alert hello world, right? So this is done. Now what we have done is we've used external styling. That means we've used the tag here, but we've wrote the code in a separate file. But now we need to link it as well, right? Because my HTML file does not know where my script is written. So to link it, we use script src, and in the src you mention the file name. So my file name is script.js. So if you do so, this will run absolutely fine. Let's check it out. I'll again go to live server. I think it should be already open, yeah. And if I click on click me, okay, nothing is working. That means there might be some issue. Let us see what the issue is. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll come up here. So this is this function which says which has an ID to it, which says say hi, and this is my script file. I hope the spellings are correct. It is correct. Okay, and this function, it says alert. The spellings say hi. Let me just check the spellings again. Or you know what? I'll just copy it from here. Okay. Oh, okay. This is same, but see, there's a small mistake here. I've written ID, but this is not an ID, right? This is a function which is an on-click function. So I'll have to write on-click here. So now if I do this, if I click on the page, it says that means it is the external styling is also working absolutely fine, right? So this is how we do it, right? So this was the reference of getting started with JS, how we use it, and how we use external stylings and how we use internal stylings. I hope we got the idea about that. Okay, so next up we will see what are variables and data type in JavaScript. Okay, so let me come up here and let me write variables and data type. Now, so in short, if I were to tell you what variables are, right? Variables are nothing but variables are like containers that store data. Yeah, so you can think of it like a container, which has access to your data, right? Which can store data and which can access your data at any point of time. Right? So this is nothing but a variable. You must be aware of it, if you have done languages like C++, Python. If not, in short, this is what variables are. Now, in JavaScript, we declare variables using three types. One is a let. Right? Let is nothing but something which can change with time. You store you store all the variables with let. Next up we have is var, right? Var is also I would say a global variable, right? Which can also change. And the other one is const. Now the const variable is totally different than let and var. Because how is it different? Because if you assign something, or if you assign a value to a const, right? So as the name suggests, const, it is fixed, you cannot change it afterwards, right? Let's take an example. Let's suppose I use let first. I say let, then I give the name of my variable, which is a, and which is nothing but I store 10, right? And I'll take one more example using const. I say const name, I give it as Ritik, and I also take, let's suppose, var, right? Although we should avoid using var because it has a global reference. That means if we assign anything inside var, it can be changed, right, globally. It has a global scope. But let is something which we generally prefer, with on top of let. So I can say var age equals to, I'll say 27. So I've stored out multiple names. So this is a variable with name a, and that this is the name of the variable. Similarly, I'll remove a from here. Yeah, this is a variable with name, right? And this is a variable with name as, with name age, right? With name as age. So as I told you, right, in short, what are variables? Variables are nothing but they are like containers which store data. So this is like a container, and this is so this a is the name of a container. So if I come up here, I can give up this container as a name, and this name is a, and this is storing a value as 10. So if I erase this data is nothing but it has a value as 10. So it is like this. So if I do something like let a equals to 10, that means a variable with name a which has a value 10 to it. And similarly the same goes with name and and age. So this is what it is, right? And also, since these are variables, you can also perform operations on these variables, right? First of all, let us see how can we print. So if I do something like console.log and I say a, right? So what is console.log? Console.log helps you print the result which is stored inside a variable. I'll do console.log name, and I'll do console.log age. As simple as that. Now what I'll do is I'll open up my command prompt, right, and I'll write node. First of all, I need to come inside the directory which is JS. So I'll do cd JavaScript and I'll do node script.js, right? So once I do it, as you can see, I've got 3 results, which is 10. So okay, to make it much more neater, I can do something like the value stored in a variable a is a, and similarly I'll do something like the value stored in variable name is name, and lastly I'll do something like the value stored in variable age is age. So now if I run it again, see, the value stored in variable a is 10, which is nothing but, as you can see here, the value stored in variable name the variable name actually is name, which is nothing but my name Ritik, and the value stored in variable age is 27. So as you can see, we can store names. Apart from that, we can also access those names, right? So this is goes to and fro. Now, one interesting part here is we can also use operators here. So an operator are only make sense in numerical variable. So let's suppose this age, or let's suppose I take one more variable. I'll say var b, or I'll say, let's suppose, let b equals to 10, let c equals to, let d equals to 30, right? And let's suppose what I want to do is I want to sum up these numbers, right? So JavaScript has an internal calculator. By internal calculator, I mean is you can literally use addition operators or multiplication operators or greater than, less than, minus operators to add or to show the results. Now let's suppose I want to add some of these three variables. I can do something like console.log a plus b plus, oh sorry, it is b plus c plus d. And once I do this, and here it is 60, that is 10 plus 20 is 30, 30 plus 30 is 60, and that is why I am getting this result. If you want, you can also use something like a minus operator, right? You can do something like this as well. So depending upon whatever the result is, you'll get the result, right? You can also use multiplication, and you can also use division. You can literally use any operators you want to, and the result would be as per what the calculation is. So it is giving 600, right? Because what is 10 into 20? It is 200, and 200 into 30 is 600. That is why we are getting 600. So this is how it works. This is how operator works. You can go ahead and try out with multiple operators if you want to, but this is the gist of it, right? And I'll comment this, right? So if you want to comment anything in JavaScript, you press you write in these two symbols. It is a single line comment, and if you want a multi-line comment, you add something like this, a slash with an asterisk, and you end it with a slash and this asterisk. So it works something like this. So see, this part is commented, this is a multi-line comment, and this is a single line comment. If you want to add a single line comment, you can do something like this, right? So I'll comment out this part, and also I will clear out the console. All right. So now next up we'll be seeing a very interesting a topic in JS, which is used a lot, by the way, and this is nothing but this is often called as a conditional logic. Now what is this conditional logic? This simply means that if this happens, you have to do a specific task, or if that happens, you have to do some other task. So it is something like if. So you can consider this like if I pass my 12th with an aggregate of 75 or more, I am eligible for giving JEE mains, right, the engineering exam. Or else, if I fail to get an aggregate of at least 75% marks, I'll not be able to sit in my JEE exams. So there is a condition to it. If this happens, that will happen. If that happens, this will happen, right? So for example, I say, let's suppose, okay, I say something like let age equals to 18. Now I want to check whether an individual is adult or not. Now how can I do it? I can do by using a conditional check. So what I do is I do something like if, right, with an if, the name of the variable, which is age, I say if age is greater than or equal to 18, right, I can say something like if age is greater than or equal to 18, I can say something like console.log you are an adult, right? Now if this is not the case, that means if I'm not an adult, I can come up here, I can say else console.log you are, I can say you are a minor. Now how does this code run? This first of all checks comes to line number 26, right? It assigns it creates a new variable, assigns a name age to it, and gives it a value as 18. Now once this is done, I come up here, so I just check, is my age greater than or equal to 18, right? In this case it is not greater than, but it is equal to 18. That means this condition satisfies. I can see that I am an adult, right? If not, let's suppose this age would have been something like 17. That means age is not greater than 18, because 17 is not greater than 18. This will be kind of false, so it will not run this statement. It will directly come to the else block and it will console.log you are a minor. As simple as that. Now see, if I run this code, first of all I say node script, it says you are a minor. Why? Because my age is 17. But what if I do my age as 27? Now if I run the same code, see, I get you are an adult. Right? This is how it works. Similarly, you can think of one more use case. Let's suppose if you are greater than or equal to 18, you are eligible to vote, right? Because that is the minimum limit for voting, right? If you are greater than 18 or equal to 18, then only you can vote. If not, you cannot vote. So you can also play around with this, right? So this has multiple use cases. So if there is any condition that needs to be checked, or if you want to run a specific part of the code based on the value stored in a variable, we prefer using an if else block, right? As simple as that. Okay, let us do one thing. Let us take one more example. So I'll comment out this and I'll say something like this. What I'll do, I'll take, okay, I'll take one more factor. I can take let marks, right? Marks equals to, I'll say 40. Now based upon this marks, I need to tell whether the student has been passed, right? If the student has been detained, or let's suppose if the student has been given one more chance to appear in the exam. Maybe let's suppose if he's just passing at the borderline, something of this sort. Okay, now I'll do something like, if my marks, see, if my marks are greater than 50, 50 is the benchmark, I'll say console.log student has passed. Now after this, I need to check for one more condition. I can do something like, else if marks are less than 50 but they are more than 40, that means they lie in the range between 40 and 50, and marks are, I would say, greater than 40. Okay, I think this and would work here. Yeah, if this is the case, then this and should also work. Oh no, okay, okay. Now that means if marks are between 40 and 50, I'll say one more chance given to appear in the exam, given to appear in the exam, right? Else if, I'll say marks are less than 40, that means no more chances, you are failed, you're not eligible to even apply for the exam. I'll say student has failed, right? And this should be it, right? This should be good to go. So again, let's suppose I get 40 marks. So if I get 40 marks, now in which condition it lies, let us check. So is 40 greater than 50? No, that means he or she is not passed. If marks are less than 50, so is 40 less than 50? Yes. And is 40 greater than, I'll also add equal to, and is 40 greater than or equal to 40? Yes, it is not greater than, but it is equal to 40. So in this case, I'll console.log one more chance given to appear. Now if the marks are less than 40, then that means the student has just failed. So let us check with 40. If I run the code again, okay, see, as we saw, it says one more chance given to appear in the exam. Let's suppose the marks were 39 or 38 or 39. If I do this, I get student has failed. But if I do marks as, let's suppose, 49, which is decent enough, okay, so 49 should also lie here, right? I'll do something like 59 or 69. If I do 69, student has passed, right? So this is one more example of how we can use multiple if else in conditional statements. So if there are more than two, if there are more than two statements and you to have more than two conditions, you can simply use if and else. You can use conditional statements like these. Okay, so now we're going to start with loops. Okay, now you must be wondering what loops are, and in short, if you are someone who has not done loops, in simple terms, loops save you from writing the same code again and again. Now, what do I want? What do I mean by that? Let's suppose you want to print numbers from 1 to 10 or 1 to 100 or 1 to 1000, right? So what are you doing here? You are literally printing each and every number, obviously incrementing the number as you print it by 1, and you're printing the numbers one by one. Now this is repetitive task, right? You just have to print the numbers and you're good to go. So in such situations, right, what we do is we use a loop. So loop helps you automatically print numbers, or not even numbers, print they help you write the same piece of code again and again without repetitive lines of code. Imagine, let's suppose you want to print numbers from 1 to 100, right? Obviously you cannot go ahead and write console.log 1, then you write console.log 2, log 3, right? You cannot go ahead and write it 100 times, right? This is an option, this is a way, but this is not very efficient way. Let's suppose not 100, you have to write it 1000 or 10,000 times. You cannot do that, right? You cannot write console.log 10,000 times. So what you do instead is you use a loop. Now using loop, what we can do is, let's suppose we use a for loop. For loop is a type of loop. Let's suppose what we do is I say for, right? I say let I equals to, because I want to print numbers from 1 to 10 or 1 to 1000. I initialize my number, like from where do I want to initialize it? I want to initialize it till from 1, because I need to print numbers from 1. And I say till when I need to print it. I want to print it till my number is not less than equal to maybe 100, let's suppose. And on each and every iteration, what do I need to do? I need to increase the count of number by 1, because in first code, let's suppose I is 1. Then if the code has been executed, the next time the value of I has to be 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. That is why we are incrementing it. And on each and every iteration, what do I need to write? I need to write console.log I. That is it. So simply by just 2 lines, we're able to print numbers from 1 till 100. And if you want to print numbers from 1000, 10,000, 1 lakh, the lines of code will actually remain the same. That is it. That is the beauty of it. Okay. So if I go ahead and execute the statement, and as you can see, I get numbers because I did less than 100. I get all the numbers from 1 and 99. If I want numbers from 1 till 100, I can write less than equal to 100. I can run the code again and I'll get numbers printed from 1 to. So this is how it works, and this is the beauty of it. So in short, what loops are? Loops are nothing but loops, and this is a type of a loop which has a for keyword. This is called as a for loop. Similarly, we also have a while loop. While loop, if you want to use a while loop, you can use something like while, right? You have to use a while a keyword, and in this you have to mention the condition. Let's suppose I want to mention, let's suppose I have a same condition. So what I do is I declare let I equals to 1. I'll comment on this code. I'll declare here let I equals to 1, and while I is less than or equal to 100, I want to console.log I, and on each iteration I need to increase the value of I. So this is while loop. This is also a similar type of loop. I mean, not a similar type of loop, this will actually do a similar operation, but this is another type of loop, while. So let's suppose I clear my console and I print the code again. So I'll do this. So as you can see, using this line as well, I get numbers which are actually printed from 1, and it goes all the way till 100, right? As simple as that. So in short, again, iterating loops are nothing but they save you they save your time, they save your effort by replicating the same piece of code, right? So that you do not have to write the same piece of code again and again. They help you save time, right? They help you save loop save you, kind of writing the same piece of code also again and again. That is the beauty of it, right? Okay, I'll comment out this. Okay, next up, what we're going to do is we're going to see what functions are, right? Now, what are functions? In short, I could say, functions are like machines. So what functions do? They take in the input, they kind of process the input, and based upon the process it has done, it gives you the output, right? Similarly, like how machines work. For example, let's suppose I want to uh, create a function to add two numbers. So what I can do, I can create a function. I can say function add. This takes in two numbers, let's suppose a and b, and what do I do is I simply do a return a plus b, right? Like this, and I come here, I say const result equals to add, and I'll console.log the result. Now, so let me run the code first, and then let us see what have we done here. So I'll again pass in two numbers. Let's suppose I say 2 and 3, or 2 and 3, okay? And if I run the function, it says 5. Now what is happening? See, we are passing the input, right? This input is being processed here, processed, and we're getting the result or the output here. And that's what we said, right? It takes in the input, it is taking in the input as 2 and 3. It processes the output, it is processing the output, that is adding two numbers, and it is giving out the result. It is giving out the result in result. And that is how we say that this happens. Okay, so this means that any function which takes in the input, processes it, and gives you the output is nothing but a function, right? Now see, in JavaScript there are various types of functions, but we're mainly concerned in the two main types of widely used functions, which is nothing but a normal function, which is a named function, and one is the arrow function. So we have also one more type of function, the arrow function. And how we can use arrow function? That is why the name arrow symbol. So let's suppose let's suppose I want to write the same functionality, but this time using arrow functions. I can do something like const add equals to, it takes in a and b, and once it takes in a and b, I can say return a plus b. Or since we don't have any brackets, I can simply do a plus b. This is how it is. So instead of this, uh, we by instead of this we can also use this. It's totally up to you, it's totally your preference, right? And why is this an arrow function? Because it takes in an arrow, That is why it is called an arrow function at the end of the day, right? So this is what it is. So, and this function could do anything, right? This function could have any logic. Okay, so now once we are done with this, let us study one more important data type, in JavaScript, which is used a lot, which is nothing but arrays, right? Now you must be wondering what arrays are. So arrays are nothing but array is just a data type. What do I mean by a data type is that it is just a type in which you can store data, right? Now we have seen what variables are, right? Variables help us to store data, that is fine, but arrays, they are used to store multiple values inside a single variable. Now what do I mean by that? Let's suppose you want to store the names of fruits, right? You have an apple, banana, cherry, right? You want to store these fruits inside a variable. So if we use normal variable, just like we have seen var, let and const, you can only store one fruit name inside one variable. That is the limitation of it. But if you want to store multiple values in a single variable, and in future we also want to manipulate or travel or traverse through my array, we use something called as an array, right? Now what arrays are and why are they used, we'll be seeing it we'll be seeing it just now, right? So let us see how can we first of all declare arrays. So for declaring arrays, we can give it a variable type. Let's suppose I give it as let, and just like you declare any other variable, right, you give the type of the variable and then the variable name. So the variable name here would be fruits. Now you use a square bracket, and in this square bracket you can give as many values as you want, separated by a comma. Let's suppose I want to store variable names. I do something like apple, banana, and let's suppose cherry, right? So what have I achieved here? I've stored these three fruit names inside a single variable called fruits. Now if I console.log this fruit, just check. See, this is how I get it. I get it inside these square bracket notations, separated by a comma, right? And all the three entries have been placed as it is. So this is how you can do it. And later on, let's suppose this has been already declared and you don't want to test the declaration part. If you want to add something else, you can use something like fruits dot push. That means you're pushing one more element to it. And let's suppose I want to push grapes, I can push that, right? And if I run the code again, okay, let me print it here. Yeah, if I run the code again, see, I'll also get grapes added inside my array, right? Let's suppose tomorrow you want to uh, you know remove it, right? If you want to remove it, you can simply click, you can simply not click, or you can simply say fruits dot pop. Pop means the last element will be popped out. So now if I run the code again, the last added element, which is grapes, will now be removed. See, and if you do pop one more time, that means now the last element, which is cherry, will also be removed. So if I do it one more time, see, this cherry has also been removed. So I can go ahead and maybe add grapes to the list as well. So now it will be something like apple, banana and grapes, because cherry was removed, right, and then grapes was added at the last. So also just remember, all the elements are added and removed from the last only, right, not from the starting. So you can do this, right? Okay, so apart from this, if you want to access a particular fruit at a particular index, so we can do that as well. So in arrays, these are stored as a numbered index. By what do I mean by that? That in this fruits array, apple would be at an index 0, banana would be at an index 1, cherry would be at index 2. So tomorrow, let's suppose if I want to only get if I only want access to my to the first index, or to the element which is stored at the first index, I can do that. So instead of printing all the fruits at once, I can simply also print something like console.log fruits of the first index. So it starts with 0, that means 0, 1 and 2. So 1 would be banana. So in this case, I will get banana as, I should get banana as an output. And see, that is why and that's what I exactly get it, right? So you can do something like this, right? You can store elements. You can, if in future you've already created an array and you don't want to touch the original array, you can add, you can delete using push and pop as well, right? You can do something like this, right? So yeah, and let me comment out this pop. Let me comment out this and clear out my console and add and run the code again. Okay, I'm getting grapes 2 times because I've added grapes 2 times. Maybe let me add mango. So if I add mango, this is how my array list looks like: apple, banana, cherry, grapes, and mango, right? So yes, this is how you can use arrays. You can um, declare arrays, add, remove elements in the arrays. We already know what indexes are. Indexes are nothing but the stored number address of these elements, right? So you can do something like this. Okay, now if you want to loop, you can also loop inside this. So we have a very uh, famous type of loop that are specifically used to loop inside arrays. You can do something like fruits dot for each. So this for each array, it takes in an arrow function. Let's suppose we are at fruits, right? So this is a single fruit, and if I want to console dot log a fruit, so this will give me fruits printed in a console.log manner. So if I run the code again, this is how it looks like. So let me clear out the console once. Okay, now let me again run the node script. This is how it looks. Let me comment out this one. Okay, so if you want to run, if you want to print out the fruits one by one and not in a single list, you can also do that. You can simply loop. This is a type of a loop, right? For each loop, and this is the parameter that has been provided, this fruit. Now what does this fruit do? This fruit represents a single element at once. So in first iteration, I'm consoling.log the fruit. So at the first iteration, in the fruit value, it is apple. In the next iteration, in the fruit value, it will be banana, right? So I'll keep on printing the fruit each and every time I keep on iterating my array. And so this is how you can also traverse through an array and something of that sort. So this is how it is, right? So far I think we have covered a lot. We have seen what JS is. We have seen some historical references of JS. We have seen how to declare variables, and before that, how do we add JS in our code. And apart from that, we saw what the what variables are, what are conditional logics, what are loops, how do we use loops, for the different, what are the different types of loops, right? We saw for loop, we have seen while loop, we have seen what functions are, what are the functions, what are they, they take in the input, they process the information as an output, and they give the result as the final output. Lastly, we saw what arrays are. Very important to learn what arrays are, how are arrays used, and all of those stuff. So I really hope you got a gist of what we have done till now.